Okay, good morning. Today is Tuesday, the second day of Elul. And by our Sephardic brothers, they start saying the Slichas today, Selichot, getting ready for Rosh Hashanah, for New Year. And we continue today in the סימן Yud, letter 10 in the Igeret Hakodesh. And we're learning today continue what we learned yesterday about the MITZVOS, commandments of Hashem as organs of God. Says Ramach, MITZVOS, Ramach Avorim the Malka, the 248 MITZVOS are considered the 248 organs of the king. Now, what is an organ? You have to define an organ. What is the definition of an organ? A part of the body. An organ is really something which expresses the soul. The soul expresses itself through the organs, sees through the eyes, walks through the feet. Same thing is with every other organ. So the same thing, we're talking about the mitzvahs that God gave us, the commandments. Those are the ways that Hashem expresses it himself through us. For us doing the mitzvahs, we bring the revelation, the light of Hashem. However, we learned yesterday that the mitzvahs are limited. Meaning, the light of Hashem, you cannot bring it down in an unlimited light, in an unlimited way, because it's literally impossible. You're not going to be able to contain the light if it's unlimited. So the mitzvahs, most mitzvahs are done with physical objects. And through these physical objects, Hashem reveals himself in us. And this is what we said yesterday, that these mitzvahs that Hashem reveals himself through us, on the one hand, it comes from chesed, from the side of kindness, but yet also it comes with gevura, with restriction. If it would be kindness alone without restriction, then we wouldn't be able to contain this tremendous light. Where do we find even the mitzvahs that are spiritual mitzvahs, the love and the fear, that although they're not connected literally with physical objects, but still the love is also limited. So the Baal Shem Tov once said about the love that Hashem loves every single Jew. Every single Jew Hashem loves. And unlimited love. So the Baal Shem Tov, imagine a couple that has a child when they were very old, for many, many years, they couldn't have any children. They have one and only child that they had in a very old age. Imagine the love that a parent has to this type of child. Obviously, this is a tremendous love. As much as we love our children, you cannot compare to the love that when you have an only child, and especially if you had an only child at old age. So the Baal Shem Tov that the love that Hashem has to us is even more than that. This is just the ultimate thing you can imagine in our world. What we can imagine the ultimate love is this type of love. But Hashem is unlimited, so his love is unlimited. But when it comes to the love that we have to Hashem, to be revealed, if it would be revealed in an unlimited way, then we wouldn't be here. We would be completely nullified in the presence of Hashem. That is why those mitzvahs, they all come in a limited fashion. This is why the Alter Rebbe continues, all the mitzvahs have their limitations. Let's look inside what the Alter Rebbe says. V'hinei lefisha mitzvahs nitna lanu al yedei slapshus b'midas gevura v'tzimtzum ha'orach chulu. Now, because the commandments were given to us by being vested in the attribute of gevura, meaning the restriction, and by contraction of the divine radiance, lochein roiv hamitzvos yesh lahem shir metzumtzum. This is why most commandments have a delimited measure. Every mitzvah has a certain measure. For example, it says, "Kemoi oire chatzitzis yud beis gudlin." For instance, the length of the tzitzis must be 12 times the width of the thumb. It cannot be less than 12 times the width of the thumb. And if you do it more than that, you didn't do a greater mitzvah. That is the limit. 12 gudlin. Ve'atfilin etzba'ayim el etzba'ayim. Umerubois dafki. The tefillin also has its limitations, and now the Rebbe brings two examples. That it has to be at least 2 finger breadths by 2 finger breadths. And it has to be square. If it's less than 2 finger breadths, it's not kosher. And if it's not square, it's not kosher. If, let's say, if you make the tefillin in a shape with 5 corners, then it's not kosher. The lulav, the same thing is also the lulav is daled tfachim. The lulav needs to have at least 4 tfachim, 4 handbreadths. Ve'asukkah zayin tfachim. And the sukkah, the minimum size of the sukkah has to be 7 handbreadths. We're not talking about the height, we're talking about the width and the length has to be at least 7 handbreadths by 7 handbreadths. Ve'ashofar tefach. And the shofar also has its limit. It has to have at least the size of 1 handbreadth. So you can hold the shofar, and you could see that it's a shofar because it's less than that. When you blow, people might think you're making sounds of your hand, with your hands. And the same thing about mikveh. We have the mitzvah to go to the mikveh, to purify ourselves. The mikveh also has its limits. Mem sa'ah. Mikveh has a 40 sa'ah limit. It's a liquid measurement. And if it's less than that, it's not a kosher mikveh. If it's more than that, it doesn't make it more kosher. Maybe more comfortable, but it's not more kosher. So this is all limitation in size. Now he brings also the certain limitations in time. The sacrifices too, they have also the limitations, measures as regards the age. Kamoi, for example, kavosim b'nei shana. If you want to bring the sheep, they have to be within the 1 year old. The elim b'nei shtayim. The rams is 2 years old. The forim chulu and the oxen and so on. So all of these mitzvahs, they come with their limitations, within time and space. The same thing also applies to acts of charity and to the practice of kindness with one's money. The money, it says the how much money, how much tzedakah one should give. There is limitations, as we'll soon see. But it says these are the acts of kindness with one's money. Those have limitations because there are certain other kinds of acts of kindness, which does not involve money, that though this kind of kindness does not have any limitations. You should keep being kind to other people. If it doesn't involve money, it doesn't have any limitations. But when it does involve money, we say it does have limitations. How much money you can give for tzedakah? Even though that is one of the pillars upon which the world stands. As it is written, the world is built by chesed. Nevertheless, even though this is such an important mitzvah and this is considered like a pillar, still it has its limitations. What are the limitations? It says, Yesh lo shiur katzuv. It has its set measure. Chomesh lemitzvah min hamuvchar. Preferably 1/5 of one's income. This is a mitzvah min hamuvchar. Consider doing a mitzvah more of an exemplary way is to give 20% of the income. U'maiser lemida beinanis. And 1/10 is for average measure. The average measure to give at least 1/10 to 10%. And this kind of chesed, this kind of kindness, meaning the limited kind of kindness, is called chesed olam, the chesed of the world. Why? Because we live in a physical, limited world, and everything that comes in this world has its limitations. Therefore, the light of Hashem that comes through the mitzvahs, even through the mitzvah of tzedakah, is all limited, and that's why the mitzvahs are limited. Pirush explains chesed keil kol hayoim. This means that this is the chesed of God that endures throughout the day. That this kindness of Hashem, the light of Hashem, is vested in the higher and the lower worlds. Al yedei isarusu de lasata. How is it coming into this world? Through the arousal from below. From below, meaning that is generated by man's service. Whatever we do, we arouse and we bring down the light from Hashem. And that is in MITZVOS tzedakah v'chesed shoisim bnei adam zeim zeh. This is by meaning. This is by the precepts of the charity and kindness that people practice for each other. Now, since the world is finite, it has its measures, as we learned earlier part of the Tanya, it says from the earth to heaven there is a distance of 500 years. And so too also from heaven to another heaven. So as its limit in space, the world also has its limit in time. And the world is standing for 6,000 years. So everything has its limits. Lekach, therefore, nitan shiur midah gamkein lemitzvas tzedakah ve'chesed shebetorah. This is why also the mitzvah of tzedakah and the kindness in the Torah were given into limits. It has its limits. Just like the other commandments of the Torah, they all have their limits. So this is what the Alter Rebbe explains, that now all of the light that comes from above is limited. It has to be limited. Otherwise the world wouldn't exist. And that is why the mitzvahs are limited. But what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain tomorrow, that all of this, what we're saying today about the limitations of the mitzvahs, is when we're talking about, and everything goes nice and smooth, we're talking about a tzaddik, the person who follows the rules, and everything goes nice, and we follow every single mitzvah, and we did not cause any damage in the connection between Hashem and us. However, if a person did do damage, then he's going to need to draw down upon himself a greater level of light from Hashem, and that will be explained tomorrow. So again, thank you for joining. Don't forget to share. And any questions, we can take now any questions.